live from 1981. It's Joe Moffa. It's a great replayer, very consistent, and he's working on the 1981 season. And just wanted to get a little more depth from you here in terms of the replay. You've been sharing a lot of great details. And being up here in the Meadowlands, the Giants, crying the big blues here.
Oh my God, 0-8.
So what's why the 81 season? It's a lot of interest in it these days, it seems.
I think I was looking at the standings for that season, and I saw there were a lot of great races, and it was the beginning of Joe Montana's great run, and Air Coryell was in its heyday, and of course I think of probably still the greatest game that I ever saw, which was the 41-38 playoff in Miami against San Diego with the old hook and lateral. And, that was a classic. Overtime, Winslow had like 12 catches. So there was a lot of appeal about that season. It just caught my eye. And when I got the cards, I was amazed at just all the great names. But the cards are so different than the set that I was playing at the time, which was the 76 set. In terms of, the game was so opened up by then, where 76 was so much more running was key. And 81 is a lot different.
For sure.
And
for sure.
I'm glad I chose the season. I'm having such a great time, except for, of course, my Giants. Oh.
This brings up the great point that, especially when it's your team. I think even Dave Gardner was talking about, do you roll through? Do you feel, I'm a Steelers guy, so it's like, oh my God, don't let them lose, but you got to let the results go,
Yeah, you have to. It's hard because, when you look at, I pick a season and, Phil Simms was a solid quarterback in his career. At 81, he was still getting his feet under him, and he wasn't, he was probably in the bottom quarter of the 28 starters. There was just so many great quarterbacks that season, and Simms is not one of them. And that's one thing that I found about this season is that if you don't have a solid quarterback, you're going to struggle. It's harder to come back in games like that. That you fall behind. Anybody else, anything goes. I mean, I have Bert Jones in the Colts, who were an abysmal 2-14 in real life at 5-2.
Wow.
Because Jones has got a good card. I happen to be rolling very hot for him almost every week, which is a big. I mean, 3 of their 5 wins are by a single point.
Wow.
So they have gotten a little lucky.
Yeah.
But I have found that I think that I found that true in the 76 season that I did. If you don't have a quarterback, you're going to struggle. But it seems more prevalent in this because there are so few, teams that their quarterback play is suspect.
Right, for sure. Yeah, it's absolutely that. I mean, that post 78 live ball era is really in full effect for sure.
Right.
So how much prep time do you do, and how fast do you roll in your games now that you've got in the second replay?
Well, I do a lot of prep, and I find that it's important to me, and it makes the replays feel richer if you do a certain amount of prep and research into who played, who got traded, things like that. I did a 1957 replay before I did 76. It was the first one I did. And I did that kind of fast and loose because I never thought I would do a replay in my life. I had bought the 57 set, and I realized it would only be 73 games to get the entire thing done. And once I started playing it, I had a blast. But I kind of skipped a few steps. I didn't see what team started, what quarterback, what day, who was out, who got traded midseason. I just played the cards how I felt, and I let it go. But when I was playing that season and I had bought 76, I said, you know what? When I do 76, I'm going to go through the rosters, go through the schedules, games played, see who missed what weeks. I had known when I was setting it up that Stabler didn't play all 14 games for Oakland. So I knew that I had to, the guy's card's amazing. 2 weeks without him is rough. But I was determined that I would do it that way. So I made all the trades. And I sacked guys when they didn't play. Buffalo Bills, Joe Ferguson, solid quarterback. Gary Morangi, not so much. The last 7 weeks of playing Buffalo, those were 7 hard games to get through. OJ got a lot of work those days.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, and that's the thing. You really feel. I mean, I even to this day, I've just seen some. You catch comments, and everyone's entitled to their game. I mean, obviously, but I mean, the way that APBA football plays, you really feel the struggle. I think it's not all. When you're in a thick of you're a bad team, or you've got a weakness offensively, you feel it. It really gives you insight into what it's like to play those teams in those years.
Right. Absolutely.
When are you expecting to wrap this replay up now that you've kind of got a rhythm, and what are you projecting as the outcome?
I'm figuring this is going to run till I think I calculated that it's going to be October or early November by the time when I finish. When I did 76, all 6 division winners ended up winning the division. The wild card teams were different, and they got clobbered in the first round. These races, some of these races are wide open. The NFC Central's had 3 teams at 5-2 and 1 at 4-3 after 7 weeks.
Wow.
The Bucks won that division in real life 9-7. That could go to them, Green Bay, Minnesota. I think Detroit's going to fall out of it because Eric Hippel's the quarterback, and Hippel's like all or nothing. 51's a 6 on his card. 31's a 16. So there's like no middle ground. He either completes a pass for good yardage or the ball's hitting the ground. He doesn't complete a lot of short passes that are in between. But I think that, it's going to make a difference for them. But the other teams should all be in the thick of it. The Cowboys are struggling. They won the division that year. They're, St. Louis, Philly. Philly went 6-0 to start the season in real life and then skidded to 10-6. They're looking good. Washington's got a good team. The Rams are 6-1, but I know Pat Hayden's not going to be there every game, and Pastorini replaces him. Then they'll find trouble. And the 49ers, they're just going to win a lot of games. And San Diego, Buffalo is looking good. Your Steelers are 5-2, so
that won't last for.
And they're fighting. Cincinnati's got a great team, but Pittsburgh could give them a lot of heat.
And that's the thing, you've got. I mean, I was just looking at that today, and I was looking at the actual 81 Giants were a roller coaster, and they were like 3-3, 6-6,
right?
Mark Zarb will talk about how you card a 9-7 team like a 9-7 team. Any team, any range between a 6-10 team and a 10-6 team, that plus or minus 4 games generally. I mean, that's
go either
realistic.
way.
Yeah, right. Do you have any kind of? You're putting some limits. I've seen you. We've talked a little bit about your Vince Thompson, for the Lions. Just kind of limiting these. What used to be an XF, now he's part of the regular carded set. But what are some of the limits or caps that you're looking at outside of doing the actual who sat, who played?
So I create a card for every team that I put down for the running backs, what their average number of carries was a game. So a team will, I played the Falcons, when I finished the Giant game. It'll have Andrews 18, Kane 10, Mayberry 1. That's the only 3 guys that really carry the ball on the team the whole season. And I have written down 31/37. They average 31 carries a game and 37 pass plays a game. So I use that as my guide, but obviously if a team goes up early, they're not going to throw as many passes as their average, because it's going to go back the other way in the games that they're losing, where they may need to throw the ball more to manage the clock. And I use that as my guide. And, in games that get out of hand, it's a chance to help balance out certain categories for carries and things like that. So I follow that. And I use a locator system for short and medium passes, in which I try to separate out for each team where the short and medium passes go to. William Andrews caught 75 passes for 700 yards. I'm not throwing long to him. he's all of his attempts are going to be short. And conversely, like Alfred Jenkins on his team caught 70 passes for 1,200 yards. Most of the balls to him are going to be medium throws. He's not going to, so when I throw short or I throw medium, it's going to be a specific group of players, more or less, for some of the teams. There are players that are going to be in both columns, because if they average, let's say, 14 yards per catch, then, they probably caught equivalent amount of short passes and medium passes to get there. So I try to like create a formula that I can work that out for each team in advance of the season to know how many passes each guy's going to get each way. And then I base that on the number of attempts that they had per game. And I hope that the numbers are, if they had going by the 60-40 system of 60 short and 40 medium per game to try to keep the cards realistic. If the team threw 30 passes, then I hope to have 18 in the short column and 12 in the medium. And, it doesn't need to be perfect every game, but I use it as a good guide to get everybody in line.
Interesting. So on those long passes, I mean, what is kind of the minimum, say, real life average per catch that are you going to start going longer to them?
Guys that if you average 12 yards or more a catch, you'll get at least some medium throws to you. But after that, below that, you're probably going to be only getting mostly short passes. In regards to a catch, like I believe in the limit system, Fred Biletnikoff in 76 didn't catch a ball more than 32 yards until the postseason. He caught a 49-yarder. So for him, it's like I have a 10% rule. So like if you caught a pass up to 34 yards, I roll the dice. If you caught like a 46-yarder in the game, in like APBA, I would say if I roll a 1 or a 2, you get an extra yard on top of your high, but up to 3 yards. So if your high was 32, I'd allow you up to 35. And for guys that caught from 35 to 49 yards, it's 1 die extra. And from 50 to 64, it's 2 dice extra. And if you caught a pass for 65 or more in real life, there's no limit. If your longest catch was 66 yards and you catch one for 89 in APBA, you're going the whole way. I know people bring up guys like Marv Hubbard and Pete Banaszak. You don't want those guys going for 82 yards. It just it seems a little out of touch. But I also when I think of those things, I think of James Harrison.
Yeah, well, exactly. Well, that's it. I mean, everyone's got what they're comfortable with in terms of the what if. Right. It's like, well, I mean, could it happen? I mean, anything could happen at any point. What's the likelihood that, all that? Everyone's got a threshold. What ultimately is the defining factor for accuracy at the end of the replay for you? Like, what's the number one criterion that's got to be right?
That's a great question. I would think that it's overall, like the thing that I would like to see closest is yards per game overall for the team or for the league. If the league was 340 per game per team and my teams are averaging 390, well, everybody's a little too hot for me if that's the case. That seems a little out of touch.
What do you do with the injury chart as it stands? I've always felt it could be improved for years. But I wonder if what's your take on kind of game to game injuries outside of what you've already specced out for, Pastorini taking over for Hayden, stuff like that.
I generally don't use it. I overlook it. I think sometimes the injuries are just, I want to say they're impractical I think I'm making enough concessions within my replay. The time spent on the field by the quarterbacks is paramount, I think, to a successful replay. I'm willing to make that that commitment. The usage that I've set up by targets and by carries per game, I think that I can use that to overlook needing to work in the injuries within a game. I look at the defensive starters and the offensive line. I go to the box scores in Pro Football Reference before every game, and I make sure that the starters were on the field that game. Because the difference in having a 3-week guard or a 2-week guard, it's only 1 point in the index, but it could make a difference in a half a dozen rolls. I roll for the defensive index every play. I want to make sure that if somebody only played and started 9 games, and I have him listed as the starter because he started more games than anyone at the position, well, he missed 7 games. I got to make sure that his team is penalized at least at one point in those games.
Who's got the most weapons? I mean, boy, Coryell's Chargers. I mean, that's a tough
They
one.
do. It's the Chargers. Fouts is phenomenal. He's got, he throws to 3 A's long because Winslow, Chandler, and Joyner are all A's. Brooks and Muncie are A's as running backs, and they're both great backs. When I looked at the season before it started, I was like, managing San Francisco and San Diego, or managing playing against them, I should say. It was like, I have certain standards, like for defense, how the lines are set based on downs and yardage. And I looked at those 2 teams, and I was looking, I was like, Fouts and Montana are going to complete so many passes unless they're playing against the D line more often. And that's difficult to manage in solitaire. I'm not going against myself saying, you know what, I think you're going to pass.
Right.
Both of those teams ran enough to keep the defenses honest. Right. So you got to try to temper that a little. But San Diego, Muncie and Brooks both have great guards to run as well. Yeah. So, and the 49ers running games is not very strong. Montana is going to win a lot of those games on his own. Yeah. But the Chargers, I feel comfortable. You know what? It's 3rd and 5. I could give the ball to Muncie. He'll get the first down. So they're tough.
Are you doing a lot of nickel? Do you get a lot of nickel dime against the Chargers? How are you calling the defense?
Well, I like the parameters for which I set the line to D, as opposed to in the standard line, is it's going to be called more frequently against the Chargers. I don't use a nickel, and I don't say, oh, they're going to drop an index if the guy doesn't have an asterisk. I don't use that system. I don't know. I think that the stats would be skewed, completion percentage wise, if you did that. I just feel that teams probably played expecting to pass more often, and I think playing the D line is sufficient to do that.
Interesting. Nice. What about sacks and scrambles?
Mark Zarb's got a sack interception rating system, and he, the 1981 season he published, and I use it. The sack exchange, the Jets have a phenomenal plus rating for that. And I think they're 2nd in the league right now. LA, the Rams were like 2nd or 3rd in the NFL that year, and I think had the most sacks so far for me. I'm really happy with the number, like per game. It's like 2.2, and I think it was 2.3 in real life. I'm like within a tenth. It's coming out really good. The scrambles, that's a lesson I learned for the statistics from the 76 one. Any time you scrambled and you got 0 yardage or more, well, the NFL stat keeper tells you that's a sack.
Yeah.
But I realized that I was ended up getting a sack a game more than in real life. Because I was putting all these 0 and -1s as sacks.
Right.
And I kind of felt like that statistic is skewed. So I made those scrambles where I rolled a 25, 26, or 27, and it was like a -1 or a 0. Those go down as negative runs for the quarterback as a scramble. And I find that my sack statistics are much better.
Okay.
Even though the yardage is a little low. It's like 14 point something a game, and in real life it was 18.
Right.
Greg Barath had mentioned to me, he said, drop your sacks down to line 30 all the time. And I said, Ian, the yardage, because you're going to lose more yards on every sack play, it'll get a little closer. I've been dropping 28 to 29 and 29 to 30, and 30 stays 30. And the amount of yardage lost is starting to increase. So I find that's been very good.
Nice. Always tweakable. APBA football.
Be adaptable, right?
I mean, that's the thing. It's just it's really phenomenal. I mean, I think so many other games try to get so many things dialed in, and it's even, you're dialing things in when you play, whatever method you're going to use, whatever, things you pick and how you refine it and how you want to enjoy the game. But it's so much better that way, I think, than having it all laid out for you. And, you've got all the rules there. It's like,
agreed. Absolutely. Yeah. It's, there are certain things that mean more to you, and, you got to go with those. And And APBA's got a lot of things. Obviously, APBA has made it pretty easy. The way the cards in the game is set up, you can find things that are ideal for you and your methodology.
Have you ever used any of the classic original cards?
Years ago,
Okay.
I did play. A friend of mine had a season, and actually it was 76 season. He was a big Vikings fan. We had played a season with that. It seemed like a lot different. Like you posted a card the other day with the 66 being a 2. You know,
Right.
I
It changed. Yeah, that's because
when I got the new cards the first time and I saw the K, I said, "This is great." It's like when the baseball came up with the second column and they put the zeros to help separate the extra base hits a little better. The K doing that for making it a little bit more conservative about how many long runs there would be. I thought that was a great deal. I have some like really old great teams of the past, like the 50 Browns.
yeah.
Those
Nice.
cards. And I have the 48 Chicago Cardinals. Those cards are outrageous.
It's pretty wild. It's pretty wild. Now you're about halfway through this season. Just curious, have you already picked a season after this one that you've got your eye
on? I only own one other season that I haven't played yet, and that's 1989. Giants went 12-4. I'm hoping that if I decide on that season, hope it goes a little bit better for them.
You keep picking these Niners Super Bowl.
Yeah,
that's a problem. 86, man, 86.
Yeah, right.
Or 90. Yeah. What season set do you hope that they release next, officially?
Yeah.
What's your vote?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Because I was thinking 2000, because I don't know that they have, like, if 2000, I don't know when it was made, if they even sell it right now.
I think it's out of stock now. I do have it. I forget when I forget if I got it aftermarket or in the mid-aughts. Have you how about 07 and 11?
I actually owned 07 at one point, and I didn't do it as a replay. I had done like a draft league, because that's how I was handling baseball at the time. I do a lot of like the baseball. When I played a baseball game, most of the seasons I played is I draft teams from that season. So if a league if the season had 24 teams, I might draft 12 of my own. So I only had to play the best players. And I had tried that when I had got the 2007 season, and I got through about half of it. I just wasn't enjoying it. But Brady's card is, that team is invincible. If I would have not, divvied them out, that team is pretty good. Yeah. I don't know that I would want to. I think they would go undefeated.
Do you have much head-to-head experience, and is that of interest?
I haven't played head-to-head in football since, probably 1978.
That originally, okay.
Yeah. When my friend had it, we would play head-to-head, and then one of us would like take the game home. Either he would keep it or I would take it home with two teams, and I would play a game that night, and then the next day we would do it again.
Nice.
But I haven't played head-to-head in football since then. I don't really play a lot of head-to-head baseball either. I haven't played seriously head-to-head in decades. I played a couple of games when my brother came to visit me on vacation. He rolled a couple of games in my league with me.
Nice.
But other than that, no. I live in my little solitaire sports world.
There you go. That's it. That's awesome, man. That's thanks for the update, and hopefully we can check in with you at the end of your 81 season here and see how it all turns out.
I'll keep posting. You can stay in touch.
For sure. It's good that you're consistent. Thank you for doing that, because
I try. It's part of it. Like, it's become part of the routine for every game. After I do the prep for every game, I play the game, I update my stats, and then got to make my replay. I got to do my recap. I got to put that out there. Everyone wants to see.
That's right. Yeah, it's that content creator aspect of it. It's also drives you too. I mean, I think that helps kind of say, hey, I've got to get this done. It's kind of tough to
it's a motivator. It's great.
Yeah. Cool, man. Well, hey, we're enjoying it. Thank you so much, and keep it going.
Thanks, Jeff. I will.
You got
I'm having a great time with it.